The buttons. Hello, my friends. I hope you're having an outstanding day. This is Heather. Welcome to the Back to Me podcast. Yeah. And today, super amazing people. You know that I love talking to all the people who come on the show because I always learn stuff and it's always so interesting. And I love all the knowledge and wisdom that comes from all of these people. And today, Tasha Wilson, messenger. We talked about it before, whether we put it in messenger of hope, but I love that title. It's so good. Welcome, Tasha.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to join this conversation and dig into it.
Oh my gosh, right? Yes. And we're talking about healthy boundaries today. Ew,
Yes.
ew. But it's important. I mean, some of us say, yeah, I'm totally okay. I've got it. But then we don't really got it a lot of
Hmm.
the time. I totally own it. Like, it's just something to
Same.
always work on, right?
Yeah.
But I'm always super curious on because you've written some books and you've got all kinds of stuff going on. How did you get drawn into this being this messenger of hope, this talking about boundaries person that you are?
Honestly, life experiences taught me how to be a messenger of hope. So I've always been that inside, but it was just knowing how to show that on the outside. And what that looks like, meaning advocating for myself, advocating for others, standing firm and confident in who I am. Supporting the choices that I make and being unapologetic about it, and knowing that it's okay to prioritize myself, prioritize my needs, prioritize my well-being. And so, being a messenger of hope is, I'm doing this not just for me, but to show you that you can also do it, and that it's okay that you have to revisit it every once in a while, and that it's not a linear journey. Because when we talk about boundaries a lot, sometimes we think that if we check boxes 1, 2, and 3, we just have it all figured out. But, life can throw curveballs, and it can help you reinforce them. It can help you relearn them. And it can also help you unlearn old habits that weren't really effective when it comes to, healthy boundaries. So, yeah, life experiences was my greatest teacher.
I think as soon as you have things figured out, that the universe is like, okay,
Hmm.
you're graduating to the next level.
Exactly.
You figured that out. Check. Let's move you to the next level. You're going to figure this next thing out. Oh my gosh. Because it's never all figured out.
Never.
Oh my God. I do this workshop where I take people through this exercise where they score themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. And I always have to let people know you'll never be a 10. And that's a good thing. Like, just keep improving. Don't try to always be the at the very tip toppiest of everything because there's nowhere to go after that,
Exactly. And you should always be in a state of learning. Like, I just feel like if you don't learn, you don't grow.
right? Yeah, absolutely. So when you're talking boundaries, do you find um, that it's harder for women? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because subconsciously we're placed as the balance, the glue. We have to plan everything. We have to figure it all out. We're often looked at as the fixer. And, even though we're crashing on the inside and, we're in disarray, it's like we're in situations where we have to choose everyone else first. We have to make sure that everyone else is okay before we can even get to ourselves, if we ever get to ourselves. And,
Right.
that can happen in your personal life, that can happen at work. Oftentimes, when I look at certain roles in the workplace, we're in those positions where we're considered gatekeepers. We're considered the ones who everyone just kind of relies on and leans on a little harder than, trying to figure it out themselves first before coming to us.
I'm kind of half laughing because we were talking a little bit about that before we came on. So when you say a lot of the roles are gatekeepers, do you mean what do you envision as the gatekeeper kind of roles in the workplace?
Um, so an ongoing joke I say is clean up on aisle one. So we're the ones who are trying to clean up the fires that everyone else had created, but we have to clean it up in such a way that it's not public. So we're cleaning it up and we're not telling people that we're cleaning it up, but we're making
Right.
everyone else look good once we've done whatever it is that needed to be done, even if that means putting our things on hold. So, like, if you have a major responsibility at work, the priority now shifts from, I need you to clean that up really fast. And I don't need anyone to know that you are the one that cleaned it up. But,
It's like,
you
and how is that right?
know,
Like,
exactly.
that's just in so many ways. What do you mean no one can know that I did it? Like,
Yeah.
what is that? What's that all about? Is that
Hmm.
like saving face, or is it,
Absolutely.
CYA, by the way, I didn't do
Hmm.
anything wrong. And if anybody finds out that you cleaned it up, it was obviously your fault.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Now, what's funny is I was actually in corporate for 15 years. I was
Hmm.
I was a corporate finance executive, and I haven't been gone that long, but I still have corporate nightmares every now and then. The report is due. Oh, what do you mean he didn't need it after I stayed up all night to do it? It's not right. Just not right. And do you find that it's a fear of pushback, or a fear of, you know, being kicked off the island, for lack of a better thing to say? Or why do you think that, I mean, I'm going to use women, why do you think they resist just saying, no, I'm not doing that, or having those boundaries in place?
I think, generally speaking, with women, um, we're nurturers, and so there's a softness to us that we don't want to let anyone down.
Mhm.
And then there's that protective piece too. It's like, we feel like, okay, we're protecting you, even if we know in the back of our minds these people really don't deserve it. But it's like
We can't
embedded.
help it.
Yeah, it's embedded in us. And so I think it's that. I don't think it's necessarily the fear of getting kicked off the island, because as women, we just have this bounce back mentality that no matter where we show up, we're always going to add value. And so I think it's just more of taking ownership of our role with where we are and whatever position we hold in the workspace, and then doing that to the best of our abilities, but then also having this extension of, let me be a safe haven for someone else, or let me be the one that they feel like they can rely on even when I'm tired. And I think because we manage the weight of all these responsibilities so well, that people often forget how heavy it is when we're
Right.
carrying a load. Yeah.
And I think it's not true for everyone, but I think for some people that lets them feel valued.
Hmm.
So, like, there's a self value aspect that comes into it, because people, like, I can remember when I was in corporate, I've, now that I think of it, I'm like, I'm sorry that I did that. Like, the people you would always go to, like, I need this, and they would just smile and do it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, all my admin friends that I was stressed out. Okay. But I was kind, but I probably asked more than, they already had other stuff going on.
Hmm.
And it's true that I find, especially for women, they will, and I know there's exceptions to every rule. So
Yeah.
my male friends, this could be you. Don't worry, but um, they will pile it on,
Hmm.
and not take care of themselves. And I've seen people just hit that wall, and then it
Hmm.
takes so long to recover from burnout. I was talking to someone just a couple weeks ago about burnout and how hard it is to pick yourself back up from it,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And then what do you do? Like, people aren't going to stop putting it on you. So then it seems like, oh, there's something wrong with Tasha because
Hmm.
she's not doing this anymore.
Exactly. Why is she speaking up for herself all of a sudden? Why is she using the word no a lot more?
Right. But hopefully you start to exercise it before burnout,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So do you think there's ways that people can start to um, um, embody that if they've never done it before? Like, how would
Mhm.
you even start?
Yeah. So unfortunately for me, I had to learn the hard way.
Right.
I actually became burnt out before I recognized what was going on. But I will say, from that experience of burnout, it taught me of recognizing the signs early in my new experience, And so, um, just a little backstory, I was to the point of burnout where the doctor placed me on bed rest, like where I had no choice. And it was like, they'll survive, they'll figure it out. And the doctor had to put it in perspective. You have to think about the people who care about you, not what you do at work, but the people who care about you outside of that. What does that say to them if you're not, functioning as your best self, So recognizing that when I was on bed rest and there was just dismissiveness to the humanity, from my employer,
Right.
that's when I knew then. I was like, okay, so basically what you're telling me with your actions is that what I'm dealing with is not a priority in comparison to what you need. And at the end of the day, you are so consumed by me handling whatever it is that you need that you're not giving me time to recover. And if I didn't recover, you would have no issue in replacing me. And so, um, that was a harsh reality for
That's
me,
quite the it's quite the wall to hit. It's like the,
Yeah.
oh my, you don't actually care.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so bed rest, like that's pretty far down the burnout hole.
Yeah.
Did what were your early signs that you didn't even pay attention to?
Um, for me, it always starts off physical ailment. So there's the, being tired all the time, and then there's, body aches and pains, and, I'm thinking, oh, this is just regular fatigue. I'll push through it, right? Because that's what we're conditioned to do. We're just gonna
Yeah.
push through it. And then there's, irritability sometimes because you're so tired. And then just having low energy, like when getting off, like not wanting to be around the people who love me the most. Like I just want quiet. I just want to be by myself. And that was like the opposite of my day to day, like prior to the burnout piece. And so I remember the day that it happened. I went to the doctor. I got up and I was feeling like super dizzy. And in my mind, I'm like, maybe I just got up too fast, whatever.
I'm fine.
And I'm fine. Let me just lay back down and try it again. And I will never forget. I, set my alarm. I lay back down for like an hour and I was like, okay, I should be fine. And I got up and I was still feeling dizzy, but this time to the point where I became nauseous. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And so I messaged my supervisor and I was just like, something's not right. I don't think I'm going to come in today. I just feel a little off, and I need to figure out what's going on, make sure I'm not contagious or whatever. And the response was just like, well, give it a minute. You might be okay. Sometimes things happen in the morning. Um, you should be fine. I'll see you in a little bit. And I was like, what? So,
What? No, I said I'm not coming.
yeah. And so then I got nauseous again. And then I called my mother. And I was just like, and so my mom, she's like, is everything okay? It's like early in the morning. And then, as an adult, like, I don't really call her unless it's something really urgent, especially at unconventional times of the day.
Right.
And I explained to her what was going on. And um, she said to me, you need to go to the doctor. Your supervisor will be okay. You need to go to the doctor. So I messaged
You
my supervisor.
needed permission.
Yeah, I needed permission.
My mom said I had to go to the
If
doctor.
mom says it's okay, it's okay. So I messaged my supervisor again and I said, "Hey, I'm going to the doctor. I'll let you know what the doctor says." And I just left it at that. And so when I went to the doctor, in the waiting room, I actually passed out.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And so when I came to, I'm in a room and did some vitals, blood work, and all that. And they told me that I had vertigo. And they said that a lot of times it can come from different indicators. But in my case, it was stress, it was
Yeah.
burnout. And they were like, "Yeah, you're immediately on bed rest for the rest of the week."
Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah, there was something wrong.
Hmm.
Right. And I do find that maybe less now, but if
Hmm.
like before, if you called in sick and you weren't bleeding, they're
Hmm.
like, you better come in. Well, no,
Hmm.
there's actually something wrong. I don't see anything. So you get,
Yeah,
we need you doing this. I'm like, how is that? There's no compassion in that. There's no consideration in that. It's
at
just,
all.
it's so
Mm-mm.
crazy. And I understand like they're stressed out because they've got stuff to do, but where does it end? Right? It ends with
Yeah.
you on bed rest, really.
Hmm. Hmm.
Did you stay in that job?
No, I left. That was the lesson I needed. I was like, one time is all it took for me. I was like, whoo, that was such a scare. Um, because my mom was just like pointing back to, what if I had passed out in my apartment and, I live alone. So that was scary for her. She was
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry that you passed out, but I would rather you pass out in the doctor's office versus, being home by yourself.
yeah,
And, for me, that really caused me to shift gears and say, you know what, this is unhealthy. I can't keep living like this. I got to do what's best for me. And so, in my opinion, it shouldn't have been a surprise when I resigned, but my supervisor just, was really defensive and was just kind of like, "Well, why?" And I'm like, "Do you not realize, I was hospitalized. I was on bed rest. Like, you're kidding me?" But it was more so like, "Why are you leaving me? How dare you take care of yourself when we still have a need here? Like, who's going to fill in the blanks while you're gone?" And I'm like, "You all just kind of sat there and let things pile up while I was on bed rest and expected me to come back and handle that, when in essence, you all could have been team players and started
right.
working on those things while I was out."
They just left everything for you to do when you got back?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What kind of job was it? Can I ask?
Yes. I was actually a case manager.
The people who are supposed to care about other people?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Oh
dealt
my
with a lot of
goodness.
high volume situations, and out of the team, you know when you are the only woman there, I was getting hit with the heaviest cases. So, suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, suicide success, post hospitalizations with, patients, dealing with domestic violence. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
and here
goodness.
they get, a little more milder cases, like someone who is, and, this is not to minimize anything, but like if someone is like, "Hey, I'm just a little anxious about being in a new city compared to, and here I'm getting high level."
Like life and death kind of things.
Yeah.
Like you're
Mhm.
getting the very intense stuff.
Mhm.
And that's, and when you're dealing with other people, like I know social workers, case managers, like
Mhm.
when you're dealing with people who are in that crisis, even police officers, like
Mhm.
when you're always dealing with people in crisis, it does take a toll on you, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's an energetic toll because you are trying to hold that space for those people to
Mhm.
be stable. And if you don't have time to recover from that, then luckily it was only vertigo. Not that vertigo is an only, but
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Wow. That, how long did it take you to really get yourself your feet back underneath you?
mm. I would say at least 6 months, like to really get myself back on track emotionally. Because even then, you know, um, dealing with the after effect. And so even though that was the experience that triggered it, it was like now certain things with the sensitivity to light and
Mm,
showing up in other spaces in my life where um seasonally, when there's like abrupt changes in the weather, just things that used to not bother me now are. And so now I have to take in consideration, or if I'm not drinking enough water and I'm becoming dehydrated, then, an episode would come on. And it's like, imagine something from the opposite extreme is what caused this. And now other things are impacting it. And it's like, imagine that. And so, being careful with, lighting, getting certain type of lights and things like that I never had to consider before. And so I just remember I thought I could just kind of go with the flow again and do things the way that I was accustomed to prior to that. And my body was like, absolutely not.
you waited too long for your lesson. Now we're
Yeah.
really going to teach it.
Yeah.
I call it, the universe kicking you in the ass because you weren't paying attention.
Exactly. Yep.
And you don't want them to kick you hard, but oh my gosh, when they do, then they don't let
Mhm.
up for a bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's intense. That's intense,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
guess that's what you help people with now, because I know you're a speaker and you're author and
Mhm.
you've got all this stuff going on. What are your current books? Um,
Yeah, so they're really about, my personal experiences, and I talk about different areas of my life where I just kind of emphasize the importance of. So, like, my first two books are like a part of a series. The first one is Who Am I When Everything is Silent? And then the follow up to that is Who Am I When I'm Under the Limelight? And so they stemmed from a place of grief. So, Who Am I When Everything is Silent? Talks about the mind of a 16-year-old when I lost my father and trying to navigate life after that and figuring out who am I now, and how do I deal with this, right? And so, Who Am I When I'm Under the Limelight talks about how our family is kind of put on display. So, whenever there's tragedy, a lot of people really don't care about what your family is doing. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, well, what are they doing? How are they dealing with it? How are they coping?
right.
I view it like as if I was like a science project, where they're like, well, how's she going to respond to this? And so really talking about how intrusive people can be, right? And so I want to say that was probably my first real exchange with boundaries.
All right.
Because people just kind of feel entitled to know what's going on and know how we're doing and know how we're feeling, and not with genuine intent, and so those
They
two
want
books kind
something
of
to
talk about
gossip about. Did you hear this and
exactly.
this and this? Oh my God. And I heard this and this
Mhm.
and this. Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So, then my third one is recognize your opponent when your greatest enemy is your enemy. And that really
Oh.
talks about the self sabotage piece.
Uh, You see my face. See, I told you I always learn something.
Yeah.
Recognize your inner opponent. I'm writing it down.
So, that book, I'm someone who, when I really want to get the message across, I really have to do it from an authentic place. So I purposely placed myself inside of a box for the cover of that book because I wanted people to see how uncomfortable, how awkward, and how restricted it is to be in a box. And I talk about the different scenarios in my life where I've done that to myself, knowingly and unknowingly, and how I had to unlearn certain cycles of behavior, thought patterns, and trends, and really combat that by destroying the boxes. Because I use this imagery in the book that talks about how, like, when you're moving, right? You move into a new place and you have your boxes labeled kitchen, living room, bathroom, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes we think that if we just move the box to another room and it's no longer in our sight, that means the box disappears. But it's like, no, you have to actually unpack that stuff and you
Right.
actually have to destroy the box in order to really embrace where you are. And so I think, we do that in life when it comes to like job opportunities or, making new friends or just relocating somewhere else, that sometimes we talk ourselves out of it before we even get to experience if we enjoy it or not. So that's where that one kind of came in.
That's brilliant. I think that should be on the reading list at every school,
I agree. And
right?
you know what? As a matter of fact, that book is actually on the campus of Johnson C. Smith University for their social work department. So they were the ones who basically said, hey, we're going to buy so many copies of your books and we're going to pass them out to all freshman students because they deal with the adjustment, the change, and trying to figure out who they are and all of that. So um, right now, I'm known as the girl in the box at that school.
Instead of messenger of hope, you're the girl in the
The girl
box.
in the box.
Do you go and speak at that school?
Yeah, so I actually have a really good friend of mine who's in that department, and I was supposed to speak there, and then COVID came.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
little thing.
that thing. I was scheduled, ready to rock and roll, and yeah.
So much stuff was scheduled to rock and roll, and then boom, the world
COVID shut
stopped.
it down. Yeah, so and then my last book is a Shatterproof, Refocusing the Lens. And that really talks about my perspective of one, um, loving myself, being worthy of that, and then embracing love from others. And so, as a sexual assault survivor, that used to be hard for me to
Right, no
think that I
kidding.
deserved happiness, to think that I deserved a good life, for me to even be confident in the decision of wanting to better myself. And so, that really talks about how, being a survivor of any level, of any situation, of any traumatic experience, it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual assault, but recognizing that in that moment that you're in the trauma, often we feel shattered. But when you come out of that and you really start working on yourself and you really start becoming empowered, you then become shatterproof.
That's awesome. And I think it's so interesting. And I mean, I actually do understand it, but from an intellectual point of view, you think, why would the person who um, suffered the original trauma then decide that they were the ones who should be punished from here forward and not good enough? I'm like,
Mhm.
when you think of it logically, you think that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But when you think of it like
Hmm.
it's physically, you say, well, yeah, no, I get it.
Hmm.
Like it's totally a thing. But
Yeah.
I thought you said shadowproof, shatterproof with T's.
Yeah.
Shatterproof. I'm writing it down again. See me writing? This is what whenever I look over here, this is me writing to make sure I don't forget. And oh my gosh, you are so prolific. Like, and then
Yeah.
the next one was the coming soon one is Escape the Cape. Is that what you said it was? I think.
Yeah, so I this is something so out of the ordinary for me. I'm actually launching an anthology where I'm getting other people to share their experiences and serve as co-authors. And this actually kind of captures everything when it comes to boundaries, when it comes to prioritizing yourself, when it comes to maximizing who you are in the workspace, in your personal life. And it's called Escape the Cape, From Existing to Evolving. In that, I'm actually going to release that call and response for co-authors at the end of May, and we'll start working on that anthology at the beginning of the year of 2024.
Amazing. That's going to be a super awesome book. I know it. Just from the titles of all your other books and what they're about, I'm like, they just keep getting better. I just can't even imagine. It's so good. And if you were going to give someone, like, I love that they're giving them to the freshmen. It's too bad they couldn't give it to them in high school because
I know
that
that's
is,
where I'm at. I'm like, because again, going back to my personal experience, I was 16 in high school where I first dealt with people lacking boundaries and really trying to figure out how do I navigate that, you know?
I feel like we were all at different level. Like trauma was high school is trauma at different.
Mhm.
Like for us, high school starts in grade 9, so I can't remember how old you are then. I feel like I was 15.
Mhm.
And it's just like, huh, this is this is not a fun, safe place like they show on
No.
TV,
Mm-mm,
right?
mm-mm. You learn about clicks quickly in high school.
Quickly, mean girls,
Yeah.
protection devices that will serve you possibly when you're in high school, but definitely won't serve you ongoing when you get
Mhm.
out into the rest of the world where people are there's still mean girls in the workplace, but they're just a little more subtle about it sometimes.
Yeah.
And if the guys listening don't know what mean girls are, just go watch the movie, right?
Yeah.
And way back, it's so funny. This is like way back at the beginning of our conversation. I had this thought because you were talking about how um, women just figure it out. Like something's going on, we just figure out how to do it. And I can
Mhm.
remember, I can't. She's blonde. It was an actress. She's famous. Her name has left my head. I think it was the Grammys or something where someone asked her a question,
Mhm.
and she was basically saying, you can tell men writers when they're writing scripts because when something happens, the woman turns to the man and says, "Oh no, what are we going to do?" And she said, "That doesn't happen in real life."
No. Not
Right?
at all.
Not at
Everyone's
all.
looking at the woman. What are we supposed to
Yeah.
do?
Except in the movies where the guy has to like charge in and
Mhm.
fix everything. Oh my gosh. So, first of all, you're awesome, by the way. And I love talking to you. But and I want to respect your time, their time, everybody's time. But before you go,
Mhm.
do you have one as many words of advice as you want, but words of advice or wisdom to help people start to really maybe recognize
Mhm.
where they can start to stand for themselves, perhaps, or whatever you think of. Any words of wisdom you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I think starting off, I would say don't ignore the signs. Um, you see the signs for a reason. So, assess those things. Do self inventory. And then, once you become aware of those signs, really figure out why are you accepting it? And then what do you need to change that reaction that you always have to it? And, just to kind of explain that in detail is oftentimes we'll see things, but we just ignore them or we minimize it or we don't think it's a big deal when it really is. If you notice it, that means it matters to you. And so, um, try to figure out why your initial response is to minimize it and figure out ways that you can combat that thinking. Because, a lot of times we're conditioned to thinking things are no big deal. Or other people will try to tell us that it's no big deal. So we suppress it. And so that's not healthy. Don't do that. Because if it matters to you, that means it's meaningful. So, do something about it. Um, Also, when it comes to setting healthy boundaries and when it comes to figuring out what you like and what you don't like, embrace the journey. Take it moment by moment, day by day. Don't feel like you have to have it all figured out because no one ever does. And, be gentle with yourself while you're figuring it out. And don't allow the opinions of others make you feel bad on the timing of your journey.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of good wisdom right there, right? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Tasha. That's awesome. No wonder you're the messenger of hope. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. My friends, the website is lifewithtasha.com. Don't worry, it's in the show notes. If you can't stop and write it down, you can click it later. And definitely check out those books. I am totally checking out the Inner Opponent book. Like, that's now on my official reading list because I've been doing lots of self work. And I still, even though no matter how much self work you do,
Mhm.
every now and then that person's going to show up and go, "Oh, crap, there it is again."
Yeah.
Right? I thought I got rid of that box.
Exactly. That box will creep in every time.
Oh, damn it. Damn it. Damn it. But life is exciting. So we just keep working with it. We don't get to the end, right? When we get
Right.
to the end, that's the end. So we exit from Earth School, as one of my mentors says. When we exit from Earth School, maybe then our lessons are done. So thank you, Tasha, so much. Friends, yes, check out Tasha, connect with Tasha, and read those books, and let me know what you think for sure, because I'm always curious. And if you know someone who's stuck in a box, or even if they're not, send them this episode anyway. Thank you so much. Take care. I will see you soon.